All right, here we go. We got in the pod with Jory
and Chris.
and here we are, baby. Here we go. Let me put this microphone a little closer to you, Chris.
I appreciate that.
All right, Chris. So
Jory, my man.
my man.
It's been a week, dog.
It's been a week.
A week. How is it without me?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. It's been pretty horrible.
Is it?
It's been pretty horrible. I haven't been able to talk to you, and surrounded by women. So that's just been one of those mind my P's and Q's type things.
Oh, I hear you, man. I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, granted, there are a couple more guys on my shift, but it's definitely not the same. You know what I mean? Everyone's kind of in their own own bubble. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And before we get further than that, what I wanted to say is we're going down that road, but for people who don't know, we're both 911 operators.
Yeah, we work for a large city in the state of Arizona.
And as dispatchers, it's predominantly women employees, and they're good people. Nothing against them, but there's a camaraderie amongst men that women can't fill. There's a void that women just can't fill.
No, and you know, it's fun working around other guys, especially other like-minded guys, because you know when you have your back against the wall and it's nothing but estrogen and talking about, you know, all the stupid shows that they watch, or guys, or relationship issues and shit like that. Like, at least guys, when we talk about relationship issues, you know what I mean, it's like cut and dry. Like, I didn't get any pussy last night, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and you're like fuck me neither, or fuck man, what's going on, you know? And you can get those conversations and then roll with it, but it's not all like, why didn't she call me back? Like, you hear some shit like,
you're overthinking it on that one, lady. Just chill the hell out.
Yeah, and if you're fucking 16 guys, you wonder why none of them want to fuck, you know, wipe you up. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not gonna speculate on that right there. Who you may be talking about, but that's exactly what it is. And so with you being gone, we're on the same shift. So I work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. But you now work from
3 to 11.
3 to 11.
3 to
a lot
11.
busier. A lot less
talk.
talk.
Busier, a lot less. Yeah, I mean, granted, there's a lot less time for conversation because, you know, it's active and shit like that, and especially if you're on the 911 side, you know what I mean. It's like call.
Yeah.
And then, you know, up until your break, and then you want to, you know, sometimes you just.
So over the course of 8 hours, let's say on third shift, I'm taking between, I'd say average about 80, 90 calls. How much would you take on second shift? Would you guess?
150 to 200.
150. That's over the course of 8 hours minus the hour break you get. So that's really 7 hours of work. 120 people. You got 150 stressful situations you got to deal with. So
potential stressful situations.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, man. It's definitely interesting.
Now, before we go on that, you haven't always been a 911 operator.
No.
But
yeah. So for everybody, my name is Chris. 33 years old. Married. Got 2 kids. Before this, I was.
Well, let's go in chronological order.
Okay.
So I remember. Well, you were about to go backwards on me here, so I just wanted to start off with military.
Yeah.
What age did you go into the military and what branch?
21, and went into the United States Marine Corps. So went to college. Went to college on a football scholarship after high school.
What position you play?
I played cornerback. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got that cornerback body too.
Yeah, and speed. You know what I mean.
Jacked and speed. Yeah.
I liked hitting. You know what I mean. I didn't really do a lot of it in high school, except for my senior year, and then you know, I just started to enjoy really just laying the fucking wood on people.
Yeah.
And it was cool. I mean, it was a good experience for me.
What college did you go to?
Went to the Christian University out in Springfield, Missouri.
Right.
But you know, I didn't have the mental discipline that it requires. You know what I mean? Or the good fortune that some people have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, college, went to 2-year stint in college and figured out that wasn't my niche. Did some odds and ed jobs. I worked for a helicopter company out in Hawaii, where my family is from, and lived out there. So, worked for a helicopter company, and then decided to join the Marine Corps. Went in as an infantryman, and then was deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq between 2004 and 2008. So did a stint, you know, there. And ironically, I was also stationed out in Hawaii too. So it was like I joined to see the world and travel, but I was really stuck back on the island. And then the only traveling I got to see were airports and fucking hostile countries. You know what I mean? So it was like oh shit, you know. But it was good. You know, probably the best life-changing 4 years of my life. Taught me a lot about maturity, responsibility, accountability. You know what I mean? Taught me to see through things, even though I didn't like it, because there were many days I hated life. But at the end of the day, I said, you know what? You know, maybe a lot of shit you hate, but you gotta fight through it, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Just like
sir.
with anything. So, and then after I got out of the Marine Corps, I got hired here doing dispatching and did that for about almost 4 years. Then I got hired on to the sheriff's office out in the Bay Area in California.
And that was after being here for maybe, what, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, it was almost 4 years. It was like 3 years, 8 months I was here. And then I got hired on the sheriff's office. Did that 12 to 13, so it was a little over a year.
Okay.
And then after that, I worked in the school for a little bit as like an administrator, assistant, and things like that. And then,
in the school here back in
yeah,
Arizona?
well,
Okay.
It was at South Point.
Okay.
Junior high, and then I finally got hired back on here, and then as you know, I'm in the process of going back to Cali and working back out there and shit like that. So that's just a little rundown of me.
A little hustle bustle for Chris.
Yeah, man. You know what I mean? I want, the biggest thing I want to do is I want to be able to provide for my family and make sure I enjoy what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Granted, this job isn't glamorous or glorified. You know what I mean? And a lot of good people and a lot of good work gets done behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about communications and dispatching in general. They're unsung heroes that don't really, cops and firefighters and all that shit. They get the jazz, and rightfully so. They're out there and they're putting their lives on the line too. But often it's the people behind the scenes you don't see. Like think about a record or a movie, right?
Yeah.
You see this masterpiece and you're praising the actors and shit.
And
what about the director? But what about the camera guy? What about the screenwriters, costume designers? You know,
special effects.
Special effects, right? So you got all these the songwriter. You know what I mean? You got all these people who are instrumental in making this masterpiece that you love, and it's kind of the same thing with law enforcement, or any emergency. Yeah, any emergency services. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that work and really make this thing niche. And for me, though, you know how I am. I've always been had that innate. Well, maybe you don't know, but I felt all my life that I had this innate calling to protect. You know what I mean, which led me to do certain things and sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and that's where I feel I'd best serve. You know what I mean, and just Arizona, I don't think is going to be it as far as law enforcement for me. So, I'll go where the demand is and where I feel most comfortable, and my family is the best provided for. You know what I mean, which will suck because we'll have to do podcasts from undisclosed man cave locations, piecing together on fucking Skype or something. But
absolutely, whatever makes it go, man. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks.
Really. So when do you started the process to go back out to California? When's your interview?
I got a oral board on Tuesday, and then with another department, I have a physical agility that I'm supposed to do on the 22nd.
Okay.
So, depending on how the oral board goes for the sheriff's office, will determine if I'm going to, do the other one as well.
Are you still post certified out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that was the biggest catch, because it's after you leave, you have 3 years. It's good for 3 years, right? So I left in 2013. October 2013, so I have till October of this year to get back on. Otherwise, I'd have to go through a refresher course or an academy again.
Gotcha.
I don't want to go through that. That shit was long. 6.5 months of my life, man.
Man.
That's a long time to be spending out there grinding and getting treated like you're a freaking kindergartner. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But it's all good, man. No complaints, no regrets. Can't live with that. So, now I have a clear direction, and all the hurdles that were set before us for me and my family have been cleared up, and now I got a clear line to do what I want to do. So,
well, I got a question for you then.
Go ahead.
So you're gonna be a cop, and with all the recent bad rap cops have been getting in the news or social media, what have you. Mm-hmm. I mean, what kind of mentality are you taking on a daily basis when you're obviously you go in, you're going in for the right reasons, to protect, serve. I mean, that's kind of the motto that everyone says, you're to protect and serve, but you said it yourself, I think that's what I'm suited for. So
right. Well, to me, law enforcement is it's not just enforcing law. You know what I mean? It's protecting values. You know what I mean? Everyday values. Whatever they may be, freedom of expression, religion, to exist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So and those are important. So when I'm protecting and serving, or those that are out there protecting and serving, it's not just I want to write a guy a ticket, but there are certain aspects that you should, people should comply with. In my opinion, we can't live in a lawless society.
Absolutely.
If we lived in a lawless society, then there would be a whole lot of dead dumb people, or a whole lot of dead smart people. You know what I mean? And just if you run amok, and so there are certain aspects that aren't as glamorous, writing tickets, or having to take a child from parents and stuff. But if that child is in danger, why not? You know what I mean? Or having to go out and be a mediator for somebody's personal issues that they feel that they can't resolve on their own. And sometimes having a mediator is the best way and the safest course to go on about it. So I mean, that's kind of a little brief snippet on what I think about that. But as far as your original question, it's unique, because depending on the state you live in drives your actions on how you can enforce and do certain things. California is a curious state, because at least in the regions that I lived in and worked in, the departments that I work for and around, I met a lot of great people who were hardworking, who did their job fluidly and with restrictions. But now it seems like they've had added restrictions on them, but
you think that's politically motivated, as far as the recent light that police force has been coming under?
Well, I do think that, and for whatever it's worth, you have to be cautious on how you approach that situation, right? So, are there cops who do bad things? Absolutely. You know what I mean? It's human nature. People are human. It don't matter what you're wearing. Are they supposed to be a cut above everyone else? Absolutely. Just like with pastors, just like with political figures, just like with doctors, just like service members. They're held to a higher accountability because they have taken it upon themselves to put themselves in those positions. That being said, it doesn't excuse their behavior, but it also doesn't brand them as a target for unjust, discrimination. You know what I mean? So it's a very fine line. It's a magic trick or a juggling act that officers and higher personnel have to balance.
Well, I think that the problem is how many videos have we seen compared to how much of bad acts compared to good acts that officers are actually doing. We're doing the groundwork to establish some kind of good communication with the community. So it's kind of like a momentum thing. It's the cool thing to do. To see someone who's having a bad day. Officers have bad days. Some of them are, there's a few bad apples, but sometimes just an officer having a bad day and someone's pushing their buttons. Just, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And the guy knows why he's getting a ticket or whatnot, but he's just pushing his buttons. Officer may have just got off a call where there was an accident and he just saw his first, fatality.
Yeah, right.
And he's just dealing with that, and then he's got to go deal with Joe Schmo, who wants to know why he's getting a ticket doing 65 and a 35 or something.
Right, but again, that all, to me, that also falls back on professionalism and training, right? You have to be able to.
And that's what my question is.
Right.
How
so
do you
have to separate yourself each time you go into a situation, right? Okay. So it's kind of like, to me, I look at it like prejudice or racism, right? So say you don't know anything about any other race or religion, right? You meet somebody who's of different ethnicity than you or a different faith than you, right? Mm-hmm. That person is going to represent whatever it is in that moment. Okay, so if the guy is nice and he's courteous and he or she's displaying these positive attributes to that situation, whether it be a black, Hispanic, Asian, or Muslim, Jew, whatever, that will make an impression upon you, and so when you go into your next interaction, you might wonder if, or certain things might lead you to believe that's a normal behavior, right? Absolutely. And like they say, look, cops are racist. Well, a lot of cops, they work in bad areas where they deal with nothing but bunch of criminals, that happen to be a particular race, you know what I mean, and perpetuating crimes, and they see certain patterns. It's a misconstrued conception, and you have to be able to separate it. So each person you interact with, you have to take them for that situation, right? Yeah. So even if you went on that fatality and you saw, let's unfortunately a child be killed or something like that, you go on this next call and it's a domestic dispute and they're playing tug of war with a child, you can't just let that emotional rage spill over into the actions. You have to take the appropriate steps, behaviors, conduct, a means of force that is within your restraints and your boundaries as a professional, and deal with that situation and then move on. You have to have a short mind. It's kind of like in fighting. You know what I mean? Like you lose a fight, you can't let that linger in the back of your head every time. Otherwise, you're gonna get knocked out. We just had
sports psychologists come in. They asked a golfer. His story was they asked a famous golfer. I don't remember the golfer's name, but how do you approach your next shot when you make a mistake? And his idea was, might as well have happened 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I understand what you're saying on that. I'm glad you're talking about this. And especially you've already worked as an officer. You're going back to try to be an officer again. You're post-certified. Because the problem I have, when I'm on Facebook, I got police friends and I got non-police friends. And they're both radically
polarized.
And it's nowhere in the middle looking at any situation logically. It's all, they'll either share a video where I see an officer's behavior, like pick a video, you name it, mm-hmm. and they'll justify it any way they want to because they're pro-police, and the same person sharing the video and saying all cops or whatever, you name it. So I'm having problems with these people as far as viewing that or even having a logical conversation with these people because they're blindly following whatever they believe.
Here's what I think, and this is strictly my personal opinion. Those who are, let's just say, pro-police, right? They are conditioned in a sense and around relatively good people. They interact, they're friends. They may be the child's godparent or something, so they know the person's character.
Yes.
And they understand the innate danger that comes with being a law enforcement officer.
And that is a very real danger.
Right. And where on the opposite side, the person may just have had that one dick cop that was just being an asshole. So now very seldom do you find individuals like myself, you or myself, that are able to look at it in a logical sense and look at what was done good, what was done bad, and how do you find the middle so everybody can work in harmony. People talk about they want equality, they want peace, they want everybody to live together and coexist, and all this stuff, but it only works as good as each person is willing to put into it. So if people from one side of the spectrum aren't willing to put that energy into bridging that gap and meeting the other person in the middle, how can you expect the other side to meet you in the middle, right?
Right.
So, and again, a lot of it's politically motivated. You see guys like Al Sharpton and stuff like that who perpetuate conflict for dollar signs or whatever, and then you see other people who are
well, it's even like people who share opinionated videos, like just random guy yelling into the camera, and because it's confirmation bias on their side, they share it. It's like, this guy's got a good point. Yeah, he's got a good point, but
but that person may appeal to their view, right?
Absolutely.
And a deeper rooted self-awareness of who that person is.
Right.
And it's hard to change people who aren't willing to change.
Yeah.
It's hard to open minds who prefer to be closed. Mm-hmm. And that's the true issue we have in our culture. It's hard
to even talking to those kind of people.
Right,
because
absolutely.
They're not talking to listen.
Absolutely.
They're not conversing to listen.
Interesting that you said that. There was a video I saw on Facebook today that this person posted, and one of my friends posted, and it was these wealthy people who were going to give money to somebody, right? So they had all these people come and send in like a video feed or whatever, and why somebody should donate, I don't know, 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand to them for their life in hardship. And so the video clip that this specific individual put on was, there was a black gentleman who they were going up and asking, and so they asked one person on the panel. They said, "Okay, would you give money to this person?" And one was like, "Oh, maybe, I'm not sure. I don't know what his intent is or what he's trying to do or whatever." Another person said, "Oh, I think he looks kind, and I think maybe I would be willing to do that." And then ironically, there was a Polynesian guy who was just like, I don't think I could give money to this person. And they were like, "Well, why not?" And they were like, "Because he's black." And there was a black guy on the panel, some white men, some white females, and they were just like totally flabbergasted, like, "What? Like, how could you even?" And he said, "Look, I know everybody's gonna say, well, I'm a minority. How could I think that way?" But in his experiences that he's had with black individuals in the islands that he grew up in the Hawaiian Islands that he grew up with, as well as moving to the South, in his interactions that he's had nothing but negative interaction with them, which to him would say, if I had a choice between giving a white gentleman or a black, in his opinion, he would give it to the white. And it goes to, and then, minds are exploding right now, right? Because you're thinking, how the fuck could anybody still think that way?
Yeah.
But in essence, racism does exist, but also too, a lot of what we experience in our lives plays a huge factor on how we interact with others.
Yeah.
Right? If I move to a community, and a white community, it doesn't matter, whatever color community, you move to a community and you're exposed to nothing but negativity or hatred or crime, you're victimized.
Correct.
Your opinions towards that person or that group of people is gonna be tainted, right? It doesn't mean all black people are this way, or white or Mexican, or
it's the same as freaking an abused dog.
Right.
An abused dog that they have to put down because they've been conditioned like humans are bad.
Right.
Every time
you come near me, I'm gonna bite you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to be abused
right.
anymore.
And the older black gentleman that was on there was totally thrown, because he were like, "We shared a cab together, and so that means you hate me and da da da." And he was just like, "Look, just because we shared a cab together doesn't mean anything. We can be civil, but I don't know you, like, and I don't know this guy, and and it's an unfortunate reality of humans, of human nature, of human behavior, that we have to live with and work to live through. You know what I mean? And work to push through. And again, if this gentleman was exposed to communities that were positive and not hurting each other or doing whatever, and his biggest thing was just like always feeling like the victim. Why reparations? And he's like, well, you guys had a NAACP or affirmative action. He's like, I don't want somebody giving me a job just because I'm a minority because of affirmative action. I want a person to base my hiring off of my skills. Which is a valid point, and I get the thinking, but the reason why certain things were created, or at least explained in doctrine, is because of the inequality of it. So how do you make things equal? If no one wants to hire you because of your skin color, and this person has the money and the power to, how do you make it equal? Or how do you get somebody a loan? And again, it's all about finding ways to bridge that and proving wrong, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was definitely a trip. But even going back to the law enforcement portion of it, my views of what I experienced when I was in jail, was, working in the jails, I should say, not being in jail, because I've never been in jail, but working in the jails, you understand a certain mindset and a culture. But if people aren't willing to change that mindset and culture, how can you expect to move forward as a society?
Well, I'm sure working in the jails, you see a range of ethnicities, colors, and I see you find it's more of a poverty issue. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, but from my point of view, I think it'd be if you see a neighborhood that's a bad side of town where generally poorer people live. That's where you see a lot more crime, because you name it, but I'm just saying it's not really a race issue. So if I were to live in a bad side of town, where, let's say, you name it, let's say white people. I live where a lot of poor white people are. Well,
Like the slope.
Yeah, it'd be like, all they are just tweakers and whatever, right? I wouldn't trust white people. And that's where this guy may have been coming from, the Polynesian, living in just a poor, shitty part of town, where it just happened to be black people where he felt like he's being victimized by them. So,
which raises the question: how do you fix that? How do you uplift community? Because you have these community actions, you have these community leaders, and I'm doing air quotes if you can't see this. That are supposed to be uplifting community. They're supposed to inner city youth. Now there have been across the country there have been success rates and showing that show that these interactions are keeping kids off the streets or involved in gun. But I think personally it all starts in the homes, and you're right. Poverty homes, single family homes, where the mother is there and the father is absentee,
And it was hard getting into all that without making that first point, but I just playing off what you're saying right now. What I think is it's not going to be done overnight. It's not going to be done because you got to start with the kids. I mean, a lot of people are just broken human beings walking around nowadays who don't understand that concept. They're already conditioned. They're already conditioned with their habits that they have right now, and if you can get to the kids before they're conditioned and teach them how to be responsible adults or the sense of community, it'll help a certain time from now, and that's what you need to aim for. It's nothing that's going to be done in the next 2, 3 years, 4 years, you name it.
It's been a societal hurdle for a long time, and rightfully so. A lot of political figures, or not necessarily political, but superstars, whoever, they try to go back into their communities and do outreach programs, and I like that these professional athletes, and some of them say, oh, they're just using it as a tax write-off or publicity thing, but J.J. Watt and Patrick Peterson and all these other professional athletes going and having these programs for inner city youth who are not necessarily disenfranchised, but who are of that poverty level, who can't get ahead or having a hard time getting ahead, and they're in these programs for after school education and sports and things to try to steer. But it's not just the kid that you need to steer, it's the parents, right? So if a mom is struggling she's on on assisted living, welfare, whatever you want to call it, food stamps, and not able to help be active in the child's life, and the child is bouncing from here to there, I think it's going to be harder for that kid to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, if you go to any professional athlete who's become a success and they've come from that background of living in poverty, one thing they say about their mom, let's say it was a single mom, it was, my mom did everything she could, working this and that job. There was a sense of, she's guiding me, she's my mentor. She did everything she could, as opposed to just kind of going day to day.
Absolutely.
And that I think is kind of overlooked. Like, well, he came from a bad neighborhood, but his mom really put in the effort to make sure that he had every chance.
So again, we're going back to the parent. Right. So it starts at the parent. What the parent's doing to teach these kids, and guide them in that direction. Because the biggest influence a child has is their parent. Right. Good or bad. If the parent is a drug addict and they always see their mom doing drugs, they're going to do one or two things: become conditioned to that lifestyle and eventually fall into that lifestyle, or not want to have anything to do with that lifestyle and totally remove themselves.
Absolutely.
I have family members that are like that. That have completely removed themselves because they were exposed to this as a child. And I have other family members that were conditioned around that as a young age, and that's their lifestyle. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, are they anomalies? These people who make it on our success rates? I think it's, I sometimes think that it's a person who makes an influence on their life. Maybe that's not a parent.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Teacher, coach, somebody to take this kid in under their wing and teach them, become that parental figure or the maternal figure to guide this child down that direction. You hear about stories where a kid is growing up in a bad neighborhood that becomes a professional athlete, or whatever, that moved in with the coach, and the coach pretty much raised this kid, and and their success story and things like that. um, and I don't know, it's interesting, but you know I also think too, part of the problem is, and part of the issue is the lack of community, the understanding of the importance of community.
Yeah.
Right. Community support, community
I'm with you on
community outreach. um, if we can get back to that, maybe we can save the youth, and maybe we can
that. Absolutely.
really make a huge change.
Yeah, because you hear everything, and again, I go to Facebook, but that's really how you stay in tune to what everyone's talking about. Everyone that's how you know what they're kind of talking about, unless you talk to them on a daily basis, which is rare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, the things people are sharing isn't local most of the time. It's all on a countrywide level, right? I mean, the countrywide level. I don't even know how to phrase that, but they're talking about problems us as a country have, and I think if there was just a little bit more, I mean, that's good, but if there's a little more emphasis on what's going on locally,
Mm-hmm.
and reaching out into your own community, I think that would ultimately contribute to a stronger sense
Of self-pride and self-worth.
Absolutely. Thank you for finishing it, because I was in a listening state of mind, so I just wanted to play on that. So
no, truly, I mean, really, honestly, and I think I'll admit, when I was younger, I didn't, my parents separated, and I lived with this family and that, and my dad worked a lot and wasn't really around, and my mom, she was gone, and I went back and forth and hip hopped and whatever. My older siblings, who are like, you kind of you look at your older cousins and your siblings, and kind of adopt whatever they're doing, because it's what they're doing, and what they meant necessarily doing the right things, and you kind of start to gravitate towards that, in a sense, you know what I mean, or you're hanging around in the wrong times and doing, around the wrong activities. But too, for me, sports was my outlet. Sports kept me grounded. I knew I couldn't get in trouble because I wanted to play. My coach required me to have a specific GPA in order to play on his team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And those things helped me. And then outside of that, I had another, my half brother's dad, too, would take me and he would teach me things. He was a cop, and about, you can't, don't fuck up, don't get this, don't do this. You know what I mean? And kind of made me cautious of doing certain things. You know what I mean? And then it really changed, like I said, when I went into the Marine Corps, because I had something I was proud of doing.
Yes.
Right? I was proud to be an American. I was proud to be a Marine. I was proud to fight for my country. I was proud to serve. I was willing to die.
You know what? I have a guy on the fight team, Julio Cisneros. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name, but he was a Marine, and he shared something recently that interested me. And yeah, I mean, it was probably the best thing I've heard recently. But he shared a post. I don't know what the post was. I was more focused on what he said, and it was, I don't know how anyone could critique. I'm butchering what he was saying, but the essence of what he was saying was, I don't know how anyone could critique the leader of this great country, like, publicly. And he worded it way better, and I shouldn't have brought it up because I'm butchering what he was saying, but he just started going back to, I love my country and the leader, and basically talking about, changing stuff through voting, changing what you don't like through voting. But I butchered that, so sorry, Chris.
No, and it's true. I was a huge advocate for voting, and I said, you don't like it, vote and change it. But the only caveat to that is that you got to be cautious of who you're putting in office, right? Because again, people are selfish. They have their own ulterior motives. So if it's not
okay, I pulled it up so I don't butcher what he says, but he goes, I've seen so much hatred and disrespect towards Obama here on Facebook lately, and it baffles me how absurdly outspoken some of you are on social media for your employers, co-workers, family, friends, and the rest of the world to see. That little privacy button, in quotation, won't hide everything. I may touch on something I find important here and there on Facebook, but you won't ever see me disrespecting the president of this beautiful country, regardless of how I feel about him or my position on politics, which I also keep to myself. And can't we all just to the arguments as to why the Cardinals are going to win the Super Bowl next month. So that was just a.
It's true, and interestingly enough, I agree with what he says, but also too, as a veteran, I understand why other veterans or people feel a particular way, right?
Well, my whole point to that, it was like the most well put together words about Obama I've seen recently, because it's either him being the Antichrist or you name it. Just
right.
everyone's just butchering every little thing he does. So that was like the.
With every president. I mean, remember when Bush was in office and everybody, they made fun of him and the way he spoke, and then also about how he was intentionally destroying the country and trying to bankrupt. It's like no one is. You can't appease everybody.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that that you have to realize. You can't appease everybody.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you can't give up what's important to you.
Yeah.
So if you want to make changes, do the right thing to make those changes.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what he was talking about when he said that, but it just made sense, like, because he's talking about family, friends, coworkers. You're so outspoken about it on Facebook, and it's all public. So I just really liked the post. It was
a great post, and I'm with him 100% on that.
Well, Chris, we're out of time, at least for this one right here. So we got to wrap this son of a gun up. Great podcast, though.
That was awesome.
Fucking awesome. All right, people. We'll catch you later.
All right. This is In the Pod with Jory and Chris. We'll catch you on another one.
Yes, sir.